праздник dođe. Što?
No, lakše je ovdje.
Prachi,
Prachi,
Vritir,
Vritir,
Vishameshu.
Vishameshu.
Prachi refers to something which is rising, like in the east. It refers to something which is like a moving body which is beginning something. It is the east. It also refers to the eldest one, who's the oldest, or who's the first one. Okay. Prachi. What is the katapayadi of Prachi?
Ra. Chi. Prachi.
Pa is?
1.
Cha is?
Which chart? 6.
Yeah, 6.
So 1 6 reverse.
61.
Multiples of 12.
1.
13. 1.
So Prachi refers to first house. Vritir Vishameshu. Well, what is this trying to tell us? The dasha, that which is moving, commences from the lagna and moves forward. That vritir is moving forward if it's an odd sign. Now this, it just says Vishama, which means odd. Like Vimsha. Vimsha is SMS, short for Vishama. It's the same word. So, it is moving forward when it's odd. This can mean odd sign. It can mean odd-footed. Like Vimsha Pada, you heard of. Yesterday we did Padas. Aries, Taurus, Gemini are all odd-footed. Cancer, Leo, Virgo are even-footed. Samapada. So this Vishama is combining both. It can be odd sign or odd-footed, depending on the dasha. Jaimini is going to define all the dashas for us in these next sutras, all of them. He will define the basic principles for all dashas in a few sutras. These are Rashi dashas primarily, but they also apply to Udu dashas, because the Udu dashas follow a similar principle. Imagine if I said first house refers to first house from moon, or first nakshatra from moon. Then this first becomes the first nakshatra from moon, your moon's nakshatra. And Vritir means going forward. So that means what? After your Ketu dasha, you have Venus dasha, then you have Sun dasha, you have Moon dasha. It's the same principle, isn't it? So it is also combining those principles. In the translation, it says not only Lagna, but also 7th house. You'll get back to that. If it is odd, it moves forward. Okay. Now, when we speak of dashas, I have to give you some guidelines, because you're going to be looking at dashas when you go home. You're going to be reading some dasha. You're going to start experimenting with Narayan dasha and whatnot dasha and see what works. Right? So I should tell you, in the tradition we recommend the following. The person consists of 3 parts: a soul, a mind, and a body. The tradition recommends a dasha for each. Narayana dasha is for the soul. We recommend Narayana dasha for the soul.
Is it
It's
Narayana
not
or
the-
Narayana?
Narayana. Sorry. Yes. We recommend it. There are other dashas for the soul. It's not the only one. But we recommend this one. For the mind, we use Udu dasha. We don't say Vimshotari. We say Udu dasha. And everybody else will also tell you Udu dasha. But most will use Vimshotri. We will use variations of Vimshotri. We will use conditional dashas. Whatever is most suitable for the person. We always find that which is most suitable. you have about 2 different ways of finding what's most suitable, maybe even 3. If you're using one of the 9 conditional dashas, you know, Dvisatati Sama, Chaturashiti Sama, okay, all those, right? If you're using those, it means you're looking at a very specific desire for this person's rebirth. It implies you're trying to analyze what important desire this person has for being born. If you're using conditionals. If you use Vimshotri, normal Vimshotri, and its variations like Utpana Vimshotri, Kshema Vimshotri, Adhana Vimshotri, Atmakaraka Vimshotri.
This is the new one?
Or normal wounds Vimshotri. If you're using any of these, it is because that is most suitable for this individual, because that's how they look at the world. We're not looking at a desire, it's not conditional per se, but it still refers to a specific viewpoint. How do they see the world? Okay? One will apply. Of all these, one will apply. Of the Vimshotri variations, only one should be used for most predictions. Moon's Vimshotri can always be used in certain contexts. It has to be used for certain things like seeing the soma in the body. You have to use it. The soma in the body. The ojas. You have to see this Moon's Vimshotri. You cannot use any other.
Desire or something like that.
Soma.
Soma?
Soma is ojas. It is that which is causing the body to feel alive. Okay? We'll discuss that when we talk more about Soma. What exactly it is. Soma initially is supposed to be, it's like a juice, if you may, which is digested by the body to cause ojas. Or is it the other way around? Is ojas made into Soma?
I think it's the other way around, yes.
Yeah, ojas made into Soma.
Soma is a higher level.
Soma is what causes the higher experiences of consciousness. It always does. It's very pure. Ojas is that which is the juice which causes that to happen when digested. So it's opposite. I stand corrected. Soma. We'll discuss that later. We have to do some Somnat Navamsha at some point. It's very important. Very important. So that was for the mind. The mana, Udu Dasha. For the body we use Shula Dasha. We recommend. Now, in the tradition, we always use 2 dashas for the same purpose. What does that mean? That means, let's assume we're looking at Narayan Dasha or Vimshotri Dasha. Both of them have one similar purpose in mind. They have to show Falita, Phala, fruits of this world, fruits of this experience. And Shula Dasha is an Ayur Dasha. So we have 2 distinctions, Falita and Ayur. We will use 2 dashas for each of these. So that means for Falita you already have Narayan and Vimshotri, right? You will be asked to choose 1 extra Falita Dasha. For example, some people they like to use Brahma Dasha and Vimshotri. I like to do that.
Which dasha?
Brahma Dasha.
Brahma. It's various.
Yes, also. Use it for a lot.
Brahmadasha for fruits.
Falita.
Falita?
Didn't I just say that?
Hmm.
Didn't I just say that?
Hmm.
I was saying another Dasha for Falita. Brahma Dasha is for Falita also. It's very practical because it's also an Ayur Dasha. So when you are stuck and you have to use another Dasha for Ayush, you have to choose. Are you going to use Amshaka Ayur Dasha also? Are you going to use Manduka Dasha also? Are you going to use Brahma Dasha? You can use. Are you going to use Stira Dasha? I like that a lot. It's very useful. Those of you who want to go deep into Ayurveda, you should learn Stira Dasha. My God, it's accurate. Okay? No person's going to hospital. Which remedy should they have? Which part of the body is a problem? You barely have to analyze the chart and you already know from the Dasha. That's Stira Dasha. Nirayana Shula Dasha is another Ayu Dasha. You have to choose one more than Shula Dasha. Shula Dasha is your base. Shula Dasha you'll do by hand. You won't even calculate it in the software. But the other Dasha you have to have is going to be your backbone for your predictions. Always 2 Dashas for each purpose. 2 for Falita, 2 for Ayush. And you will learn many Dashas. You just have to choose one. Does that mean you must use Narayan Dasha? No. I like to use Brahma Dasha and Paryaya Dasha. And some of you will be thinking you've never heard of those being used in the same context at all, let alone Paryaya Dasha. In the software you'll see it's used for longevity and health. No, it's not. Paryaya. So you learn many dashas. And you have to choose those you like. Okay? Don't choose what I like. Choose what you like.
How can we decide?
When I teach you them, you'll know. This I prefer. This I like. This is what I want to use to read chants. Okay? Some things you must know in this context. Sorry.
Can I have a question? What is difference between the groups? What is Falita Dashas and Ayur Dashas?
Falita is for general fruits.
Okay.
Everything in this world. Children, marriage, job, health to some extent, but general vitality you would say. That's everything that is happening in this world, which is dealing with the mind and soul. Ayodasha is everything which deals only with the body.
Only body only.
Of course, that's a bit of a misnomer, because Brahma Dasha can show when the soul is leaving the body. And it doesn't deal with distinctly the body, but it shows when the soul is leaving the body. So of course we have mixes in between these boundaries. Understand? That is why we have so many dashas. Some of them mix. Alright? I promise to tell you more when we get there. What must you learn? Naisargika Dasha. If there are 2 dashas, which will be your foundation for all other calculations, there will be Naisargika Dasha and Shula Dasha. Naisargika is the foundation for your Falita calculations. Shula Dasha is the foundation for your longevity calculations. On top of this, you add other dashas. Only on top of this. To be continued on second year. Now we'll get into Jaimini. Diego is smiling again. He did it again. He delayed it again. Anyway. So, I was referring to Prachi, meaning east. As in Prachipati, who is the Lord of the East. Indra is the Lord of the Eastern direction. He is the king. It also is a reference to strength. It also refers to oldness or antiquity, as used in Prachina. Who's the oldest in the chart? Atmakaraka. So Prachi is a reference to Atmakaraka. So Jaimini has given us a clue. You can also start dashas from Atmakaraka. A dasha called Karaka Kendradi dasha starts from Atmakaraka. And there are 2 variations, Karaka Kendradi Rashi Dasha, Karaka Kendradi Graha Dasha. So this is what he means by the oldest when he says prachina. Vritta means turned, occurred, and refers to the amount by which the lord of a sign has turned away from it. This is referring to length of a dasha also. So in one sutra, he's hidden direction, movement, and length of a dasha in one sutra. Okay? It's like saying, count from the sign to its lord. In forward direction if it's odd. Okay? Very specifically, it implies completed or elapsed signs. That means, if I have my Lagna being Scorpio, and my Lagna Lord assume is in Aquarius, from Lagna to Aquarius is the 4th sign, but there's only 3 between. So elapsed signs is 3. So the Tasha will give, let's say, 3 years. Assume. It does not include the sign it's in, because it's not done with that sign. It's not finished, it's not completed it. It's like, say, halfway in the sign. It's only half of that Dasha is completed. Vishama refers to odd signs or male signs. They're listed here. Now he said these meanings can come from this sutra. The dasha should start from the lagna or 7th house, as prachi means east lagna. It means from the ascendant. He's added it can also refer to the west, which is the descendant, 7th house. But prachi does not mean 7th house. There's a sutra coming up which will clarify that. The count is only of those signs completed and does not include the sign occupied by the lord of the sun or karaka. You can count from the sign to its karaka. It's another dasha. Count is regular or zodiac from lagna to lagna lord if it's an odd sign. Remember we did yesterday, we counted forwards or backwards if lagna was odd or even. Footed in this case, we used pada. Then he adds lagna lord to lagna if lagna lord is placed in an odd sign. Can you make sense of that? Can you make sense of that? Are you sure?
What if Lagna Lord is in
Well, this
Lagna?
is reversed, the second.
Yes. That's why I'm asking. Can you make sense of that?
Wait a minute, but it's mentioned odd sign in both cases.
Yes. So that's something which doesn't sound entirely logical. But if both Lagna and Lagna Lord are in odd signs, right? Then it doesn't make sense. Because then where will you start from?
But both ways.
Let's take the next sutra. Think about it. 2 types. Depending on the type of dasha, the option of count can be either from Lagna or its lord. It depends on the type of dasha. We don't just do it in every dasha. In most dashas, you count from the sign to its lord. Some dashas, you count from lord back to the sign. In both cases, the count is always regular or zodiacal if the sign where we start our count from is odd or odd-footed. And he's given an example here. If the Lagna is in Gemini and Mercury is in Virgo, then we have Lagna odd and Lagna Lord in an even sign. If the count is from Lagna to Lagna Lord, we count zodiacally from Gemini to Virgo. That means 3 completed signs. The completed signs are Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. It's in Virgo, so we don't count Virgo. Right? If we're counting backwards, then we count from Virgo back to Gemini. So that's Virgo is completed, Leo is completed, Cancer is completed. Gemini we won't add, so it's still 3. Right?
Backwards.
Backwards, yes, because even sign we're referring to.
Which dasha is this?
When we come backwards.
No. Depending on type of dasha.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. In Narayan Dasha, we'll come forwards. In Sudasha, we'll come backwards. I have to explain a bit later. Especially because some of you who have looked at Sudasha before, you will now be pulling hairs out of your head, saying Sri Jyoti Star or the Jagannath Lord does not even know how to do Sudasha calculations right. That's why we wait for some things for jaimini, because how will we explain it otherwise? We'll get that. Repeat after me. Para
Para
vrityo tareshu.
Nityotareshu.
Nice. Now, dasha commence from the lagna or 7th house, or sometimes from 4th or 10th house. The count of completed signs in reverse or anti-zodiacal if the sign from which the count commences is an even sign. Can you tell me what para is in Katapayadi? Pa is 1. Ra is 2. Reverse,
21.
remove multiples of 12.
9.
Very good. So this is referring to something else. 9th house. The 9th house can also change the direction. Para in this context can mean 2 things. It can mean the other. So if what we had before was 1st house, this para can mean 7th house. Okay? There's a hidden meaning in here. The 9th house can decide direction. Remember yesterday I said 9th house from the Dasha Rashi, or the first sign, can decide whether we go forward or backwards. That's also what is referred to here. But it doesn't apply to all dashas. It applies to some. That is why this para has a dual meaning. That is why prachi could also mean atmakaraka. It can also mean 1st house. He says it goes backwards if it's a female sign. Vrityo, again vritti has come into the picture. Uttareshu, the opposite direction, the other direction. So on face value, this looks like normal backwards forwards count. When we go deeper, we see it as a bunch of meanings in it, huge meanings. And if you are not taught it from the tradition, you will not know which meaning to use when. That is the dilemma with jaimini. This will be very evident soon. Para means others, other than the discussed. And in the context refers to even signs. Before we were talking about odd, who are the others? Even. There are no in between. So it's quite clear there. And these are referred to as Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, etc. as even signs. But keep in mind, it is not said even signs only. He could also be mean Samapada, even padas. Like we did yesterday with Narayan Dasha, we took pada, not sign. So this takes care of both. Maharishi could have used the word sama to directly refer to even signs as opposite to vishama, or odd sign. The reason for using para is to include the alternative dasha systems for male-female charts. So you can change the dasha based on gender also, which is currently used by some astrologers in Bengal. We also use it in this tradition. But for some time we're going to say only Bengal astrologers use them until I show you how it's used. For example, if you are a male and your lagna is an even sign, you will start dashas from 10th house. If you are female and lagna is an odd sign, you will start dashas from 4th house. There are things like that. Relax, I'll get back to this. And I'll show you a wonderful dasha, really. Beautiful dasha. Beautiful, absolutely. one dasha which fully compensates for your gender and your lagna fully. We're the same lagna, two different genders, two different dashas. So that is why he's so broad in this. And keep in mind, our school, this Orissa school where this knowledge comes from, we used to interact a lot with the Bengal school. That's why in this interaction a lot of knowledge was exchanged and a lot of new research came up. The only reason we mention this in this context, that the Bengal school has this other dasha, is because we know it works. There was a meeting, they interacted, they shared some knowledge, they went back, tested it, they said this works very well. So we respect them and give credit to them. They're the ones who figured this out about the 4th and 10th house. Okay? Jaimini allows us to do it. So we say, okay, does it really work? They also had a school of Jaimini scholars. They were testing, they were working on these same sutras. They worked and found, how about this? This should be like this. And they have other sutras to show that. So there is research going on in these schools. Of course, now that you're learning, we are open to your research. Okay. So, this is pretty standard. What is inferred? The dasha should start from Lagna, 7th house. And in some cases, 4th or 10th house. The counters only have signs that have been completely covered or crossed over. That doesn't change. And the sign occupied by the Lord is ignored as it has not been traversed. Count is reverse or antisodiagonal, that is, sign to its Lord, or Lord to sign, depending on where the sign from where the count begins is even. And it depends on the dasha if we're starting from Lord or from sign. So the whole dasha will be like that. It's not the same dasha which can have two variations, no. Na kvachit.
Not chicken.
This is a beautiful sutra. You know why? He says only, not always. Not always. What does that mean? To what I've said before in the previous last sutras, Jaimini is saying it's not always like that. Beautiful sutra. No explanation. What is he trying to say? I'm sure if your guru told you, you would have learned Jaimini sutras. That's what he's really saying. Because after this, there's no explanation. Okay? Who's going to sit here and somebody's translating, oh, I think this person made a wrong translation of Jaimini Sutras. He comes to this sutra and he says, my God, what now? Who's going to explain it to you? Because Jaimini won't. Your teacher will. If you give him chocolates and sweets. This is a general rider sutra that overrides Sutra 1.1.25 and 26, the previous two we've discussed, and suggests that there are exceptions to the rules stated above. Although the Rishi is silent about these rules, various other sources have listed them. So some people have made commentaries on the Jaimini Sutra and talked about some of these rules. But as it is with commentaries, if they're published in the public, you don't want people to know everything you know. So even the commentaries are lacking. Okay. In some dasha systems, the fixed signs behave contrary to their nature. What is he trying to say? Think about it for a second. Contrary to their nature, fixed signs. So, Aries, Taurus, Gemini. Among them, Taurus will not work as even sign. Is what he's saying. Right? Isn't he? He says fixed signs will behave opposite. So if Aries was forward and Gemini is forward, Taurus, who's an even sign, because the others are odd, Taurus, who's an even sign, will not act as even, he will act as odd. You see that?
But in some
But in some dashas, exactly. What is he saying? He's talking about padas. Samapada, Vimshapada. Because there, Aries, Taurus, Gemini all follow the same direction. But if we talked about odd and even signs, Aries is forward, Taurus is backward, Gemini is forward. See that difference? So one simple exception could be fixed signs will act in reverse to their nature. Then you have defined Sama and Vimsapada. Right? Both the Vriddha Karika and Nilakanta endorse this opinion. These are commentators on Jaimini Sutras. I should tell you a little bit about these fellows. Vriddha Karika refers to the old wise ones. It's not a person. Some people believe Vriddha Karika means the Greeks, but that's wrong. There's another word for the Greeks. Why should we use Vriddha Karika? We like these Vriddha Karikas. They're very old. Who are these Vriddha Karikas? Parashara, Gargamuni. Gargamuni? Okay. Atrimuni. Brahma himself. He's among the oldest wise ones. Why do we take their opinions seriously? And why must we also read them with a grain of salt? Because when they made their commentaries were more applicable to the previous yugas, not Kali Yuga. More applicable. For example, the Vriddha Karika will say, if this planet is exalted and that planet is in such an own sign, your longevity will be 250 years of age. Well, now in Kali Yuga that's not possible, but in previous yugas it is possible. The Vriddha Karika are stating this. They state these exceptions and rules. They also give a vast commentary to the Jaimini Sutra to understand certain principles. Right? Like how for a Taurus ascendant treat the fourth house as the fifth house. Things like that. Odd things. Weird bits. Get that. Okay. Thus, Leo and Aquarius, even though odd signs, cause count to be in the reverse. That is like an even sign. Taurus and Scorpio, even though even signs, cause the count to be direct. We use this in Chara dashas, Narayan dasha, Padakrama type dashas, etc. Pada is what is referred to. Are you all clear? Yeah. Now some chakras. All these movements indicate a chakra. So, when I say there's a fixed definition for all the types of dashas in the world, some of these dashas can be defined simply based on these four. Okay? Prakriti chakra is the natural zodiac, where the count is always zodiacal for odd signs and is reverse for even signs. So, if we're following the natural law of the zodiac, it's called Prakriti chakra. Vikriti chakra, where it is reversed for odd signs and even signs. We use this for the fixed signs. That means when we're looking at Pada, we're looking at Vikriti chakra. For example, instead of going in reverse for Taurus, which we should in Prakriti chakra, in Vikriti chakra we'll go forwards. Alright? You see that? Please stop me, because these chakras are not as clear as you think they are. So if you think at first glance you understood it and you're not sure, just ask. Ask me. Now's the time.
But I don't know what to ask.
Alright. Alright. But does that make sense to you? Okay. Middle. That means in Prakriti chakra, Aries goes forward, and in the same Prakriti chakra, Taurus goes backward, because Taurus is even sign.
Yes.
But in Vikriti chakra, Taurus goes forward.
And Aries stays the same.
And Aries stays the same, maybe.
But when we are using
This will only be for Narayan Dasha. Vikriti chakra. Is there another dasha? Chara dashas also. Chara dashas also. When we learn them, I'll show you. Okay, one by one. I'll show you each of them, all the rules and riders. There'll be no doubts. And I'll do it much slower than what I did yesterday with Narayan Dasha. Okay, next chakra. Udaya chakra. Have you heard of the Shani exception? If Shani is in the sign, always go forward. This is this chakra, Udaya chakra. No matter what is the sign, we always go forward and regular. Always. This is the Udaya chakra is like Shani exception. Saturn in the sign, go forward. Just go forward. Don't care what's there, go forward.
For all signs.
All signs, odd, even, doesn't matter, just forward. Which part I don't care, go forward. That's Udaya chakra. It is also called Kritya chakra or Krita chakra. This is used in Shula dasha, Navamsa dasha, Udigati dasha, Stira dasha. Which other dashas? Some people say also Sudasha, but we'll discuss that when you get there. Okay? It also causes the Antara dashas to change. I will explain that. Don't worry, we'll get there. We're soon there. Then the last chakra, Akrita chakra. Akrita chakra is opposite of Krita chakra. Right? We call this the Ketu exception. But what it's really reversing is these two fellows up here, Prakriti and Vikriti. Whatever they indicate, go up opposite of that. It's not always go backwards, it's go opposite. Keep that in mind. Akrita means go opposite. Where every count is reversed for both odd and even signs. This happens when Ketu is in Lagna or Dasha Rashi. So if you know the definition of these 4 chakras, you have defined all the possible dasha movements. 4 types. Nice, huh? No more rules, just 4 chakras, done. And then people will be really mind-boggled by when you say, does this dasha follow Vikriti chakra or Akriti chakra or Prakriti chakra or Udaya chakra? They will not know what to tell you if they're not learned this from the tradition. So all these rules about, Narayan dasha, this exception, that exception, it has to be one of these 4 exceptions anyway. Only these 4. End of story. No more questions asked. There are some riders, of course. Not every dasha will follow all these riders. They might just follow 1 or 2. They'll ignore the others. Most commonly, it's these 2 which are ignored. Saturn exception and Ketu exception, basically. And these 2 included, and usually just 1, either this or this. A dasha can be either of these 2, and then maybe includes both these. Okay?
So what do you do if, for instance,
Both are in the same sign.
yeah,
Saturn and Ketu, both are competing. Choose one, which is stronger,
based on the basic rules of strength?
which you will learn. Again,
But,
you learn them again.
but generally we don't calculate by hand.
Generally, you don't calculate by hand,
Yes.
so you shouldn't.
Too much time for each child.
No, you saw how fast I did it yesterday.
But you are exception.
I'm exception. Everybody's exception. Everybody will be good. You know? First, Maya accountant here will do it like streamlined, super fast. Arlene is already doing it because I gave him some practice. You're already doing it because you've been practicing, right? Yes? Diego, I don't know because he keeps trying to correct what you're doing. And then you both make mistakes, but that's okay.
Superman.
You know? Dennis and Sandeep will see. You know? Dennis is good at calculations, at least he tells me, and proves to me every time. Now, we have to do some reading of Briyat Parashara Shastra. Sometimes it seems as if Jaimini has given little information, and we have to get Parashara to read what's the full explanation. Sometimes it seems like that, really it does. So what does he say? He says in the Dasha Dhyaya, Sloka 155, Lagnadi Vyayaparyantam Bhanam Charadasham Bruve Tasvattadisha Paryantam Sankhya Matra Tasham Vidu. Excuse my voice, normally I rhyme when I sing this. The variable period or dasha, generally referred to as charadasha, are reckoned from the sign to its lord that furnishes the period of the dasha. Are, yes, that's right, yes. This is normal dasha. Most dashas follow this. Did I miss something?
Yeah, I didn't tell that.
Here described Samapada and Vimsapada. Okay? They are also called Ojapada. Odd-footed are called Ojapada. Oja because they're very male, they have lots of energy. Okay? And then the females are called Samapada, even-footed. We use this a lot. We use it for children. We use it for dashas. We use it for sibling count. Alright? These padas are very important. Okay. Yes. We use it for counting the length of dasha. It all depends on the type of dasha we're looking at, really. It's all that depends. The type of dasha. But all these rules are the variables. And they become specific for the dasha. So you're learning all the variables now. And this is not supposed to be here. My God, it's been 4 years and I still didn't delete this slide.
Are you supposed to delete it?
Yeah, we've done this already. So, knowing this, we'll take a break. And you will gather yourselves. And I'm going to ask Maya again, did I just say that we use